fantasy. So obviously what happened last year. I cannot wait to read this. I literally can't. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to do a top 10 books that I want to read in 2026. I know like the trend is to do 26 books that I want to read in 2026, and I'm not about to do that. Okay, I'm not gonna do that. Last year I think I did 13 books. One of them was like a series, and then I put a reread and then a nonfiction book on there. I didn't read the series, I didn't read the nonfiction book, and I didn't do the reread either. So I didn't choose to do any of those things. But all those aside, I end up reading 5 out of the 10 books I think that I chose last year, and I totally forgot I even made the list, y'all. That's the thing about it. I didn't like post it up anywhere. I feel like if I had posted the books that I wanted to read in 2025, or if I set them aside and like kept that front of mind, I might have been a little bit more successful, because I do still have interest in reading those 5 books that kind of got left off. I chose different ones this year so as to not make the video like repetitive, but I feel like if I would have like prioritized them appropriately, I would have been a little bit more successful. But I think without prioritizing them intentionally, me reading 5 out of 10 is not bad. Like, that's pretty good, okay, for like all of us mood readers. But this year I decided to go with 10 new books that were not the leftovers from last year. I tried to mix books that have been on my shelves a little bit older in with some of the books that I picked up more recently, because I've definitely fallen to the tendency of like wanting to read like my newer books more than I want to read the ones that I've been like collecting dust. I still want to read the ones that are collecting dust, but like the newer shiny ones kind of like grab me in a little bit more. So I'm trying to like combat that with some of these books here. So without further ado, if you like this style of video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and or hype, whatever you like. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so, because I do stuff like this all the time, girl. And I post videos 2 times a week now, you guys. I took a long hiatus and I came back. I was like, I'm just gonna do once a week on Mondays. Now I am posting twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Central Time. So if you would like to catch my videos, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell and you won't miss it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so first I'm gonna go with the genre that I am like living for right now, and that is fantasy. So I have 2 fantasy books. One is Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wong. This is probably one of the most like fantasy lover talked about, hyped up, popular books, and I don't normally fall into that, but seeing as how I'm like fresh into the fantasy like situation, I'm like, I kind of want to see what this is talking about. And apparently this is a standalone, which is really calling to me, because that's very rare to have a standalone fantasy. And this apparently like packs a punch. Like, it's got vengeance, it's got female rage, and I just love all of those things. So I definitely want to see how this one goes. It seems to be kind of long, but like I said, it's a standalone, so I don't super mind that at all. Next, I have a sequel to a book that I read last year, and that is The Fires of Vengeance. As I said, I love a vengeful fantasy book, and this is book 2 in the Burning series. Yeah, it's in the Burning series. Who knows if Evan Winter is going to come out with a book 3. I think there's supposed to be 4 books total, but baby, I haven't heard hide nor hair about those books. The most I've seen is like book 3 and book 4 on Goodreads like last year, but they didn't have like any information about them. They didn't have a release date or anything like that, and I feel like I would know I would have heard or seen something if something more is coming out. But I really am itching to get back into this world. This one won't be on the TBR for long. Like, I'm really looking forward to that one. Okay, next let's talk about thriller and horror. So the thriller book that I have is the last Tiffany D. Jackson book that I own that I haven't read, and that is Grown. I'm not even gonna hold you. I'd be scared to read Tiffany D. Jackson because her stuff hits. It hits you like in your soul, in your feelings. Like, literally, you cannot possibly read a Tiffany D. Jackson book and like just not feel anything. Like, they're so powerful. And I know this one is like, it's got sensitive subject matter, like it's not to be taken lightly, any of that. So like, this is the last one that I have of hers, and I know she's gonna be writing some more stuff, but I'm very apprehensive about reading it, but I know it's going to be fantastic. I know it's going to be fantastic. For the horror book, you guys, I have Model Home by River Solomon. I've had this one for quite a while. This isn't like a newer book for me. And I bought it because I was interested in the premise. This is something about like haunted house or something like that, but make it black. And it has to do with like racial tensions and things like that. But it's horror, like it's classified as horror. And at the time I was like, I don't know how I feel about horror, like I'm kind of scared. But then I started reading thriller books, and I was really craving that like high stakes intensity, like biting my nails type of deal. And I was like, I wonder if like horror is really what I need to be reading if I want to have that type of like powerful emotional feeling or emotional reaction, like heart racing type of deal in a book. So I know I'm ready to read something like this now. If it's gonna be super gross, like heads getting ripped off and stuff, like I don't know, maybe, like I don't know, we'll see. If I need to DNF, I'll DNF. Like I'm not a, you know, someone who's averse to that, but I think I'm ready to read this book finally. Next, let's talk about the one historical fiction book that I have picked out, and that is Let Us March On by Shara Moon. I think this is her debut. Novel. I could be wrong. But this is about Lizzie McDuffie. Yep, Lizzie McDuffie being like integral to the White House during the Roosevelt administration, and she ended up being like a conduit for African American issues in the community, and bringing that into the White House and kind of like having his ear. So I would be interested in reading this. The older I get, the more involved and interested and like tuned in I have been to politics, policy, law, regulations, you know, things like that. And definitely getting a greater understanding of those things. So now I just read, earlier in this month, I read 107 Days by Kamala Harris. And, you know, that really, like, the whole book is obviously very political. Well, not very political, but it shows you a little bit of that side, right? And I'm just like, wow, this is more interesting than I thought it would be, you know? And, like, being tuned into the news, obviously what happened last year. What's happening now, and just, man, just the consequences of the actions of voters and non-voters and all of that, and what that means for us as American citizens, if you are an American citizen. So yeah, anyways, this has really piqued more interest for me the older I've gotten and the more tuned in I've gotten to like what's the happenings of the world and the country. Next, I will talk about my literary fiction, contemporary fiction. I have Last Summer on State Street by Toya Wolf. I think this was a rec from Chocolate Covered Pages. This is supposed to be a coming of age story. This is set in 1999 in Chicago, and her family lives in like a a high-rise that's going to be torn down by the Chicago Housing Authority, and her friends are kind of like torn apart, and they, you know, later on they kind of reflect on what life was like at that time or something like that. I think it's supposed to be coming of age, and I think she said it was reminiscent, or it does what The Coldest Winter Ever was intending to do. I think that's what she said, don't quote me, but that intrigued me. So I would like to read this, and this is really short. Then I have Rootless by Crystal Zara Apaya. I hope I said her name right. This is about a marriage in trouble, and the husband wants kids, the wife doesn't want kids, and she ends up getting pregnant, and we see what that does to their marriage and what that does to her as a mother. And this really intrigues me. Like, this won't be on the TBR long, you guys. This is a very anticipated read for me. I can't wait to read that. All right, and then we're going to end it with some romance books, you guys. So the first one I'll have is Love You a Little Bit by Kasha Thompson. I've read one book by her, which was Sight Unseen, and it's Married at First Sight, the TV show, but make it a book. It's literally exactly like that, and I really enjoyed it. I read that like a couple of years ago, and then I saw that this was getting traditionally published, and this is a small town cowboy romance, and I live for a Southern country man, so I cannot wait to read this. I literally can't. Then I have No Ordinary Love by Maya Ariel. This is her second book. I read her first book when that came out, and for some reason I've just been dragging my feet about reading this one, but considering this came out in 2025, I feel like she's going to come out with something in 2026, and I don't want to be behind, so I need to get up on this. But I haven't been reading as much romance lately, so this one I definitely need to prioritize. And then finally, I have Farrah Rashan, The Dating Playbook. Farrah Rashan, I've had this book for so long. It's one of my older books on my TBR. And Farrah Rashan is an author that I've been meaning to get into for so long. And she's got like a series coming out, or she's continuing a series that's out that just looks so stinking cute to me, and I want to get it. I want to read it, but I'm like, Anita, you haven't read this. You don't know if you like this or not. But this is about a personal trainer. She's kind of in between clients, I guess, and she's like, she needs a big break. You know, things are starting to get real dicey. So in walks an NFL player who needs a personal trainer, but he's trying to keep it on the DL, right? Because he doesn't want anybody to know that he needs a personal trainer. So he ends up working with her, and they're out like having like a professional lunch or something. Somebody sees them, and the female main character is like, oh no, this isn't what you think. This is my boyfriend. So I guess it's like a fake dating situation. But you give me a big burly football player, I'm interested. I'm interested. And fake dating can be cool. Like if they're friends and they're not like pretending you hate each other type of thing, I think that might be really cute. So I really want to read this and see if I like the author's writing style, because this is an author that I've seen and heard from a lot, but I just haven't read from them yet. So I really want to read that. So you guys, that is those are the 10 books that I want to read in 2026. There we go. I do not have a reading goal. I read as much as I need to read. I'm not 100% analog with my like reading tracking, but it's not something that I'm keeping up with, like how many books I'm reading. I'm reading for my soul. You know, if you know, you know. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you like this style of video, give it a thumbs up and or a hype. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so before moving on. Other than that, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.